Hello, beautiful alchemist. Happy March. It is March 2025, and this is our Energy of the Month update. Before I get into the energy of this month, I first and foremost want to say I am so thankful for all of the teachers and authors and practitioners who have agreed to join us on Reiki Radio for this special round of series. If you have not tuned into that yet, be sure to tune in. You don't want to miss it. It's so much juicy goodness. So, what happened was I really wanted to elevate the way that I am using this platform and thinking of how I can best support everyone in the community in terms of having this way of being able to connect with teachers, authors, healers from various modalities, from um, all different states and countries. And it's been since 2013 of doing Reiki Radio. But what I realized in this time of interviewing and podcasting is that a lot of times the guests that come, our conversations tend to, get a little more juicy towards the end. It's where we start breaking the ice, so to speak, and then the interview is over. So I thought it would be beneficial for everyone who has been a part of the community, everyone who is new joining the Reiki Radio community, if we had more time to just dive a little bit deeper with these teachers, healers, and authors. And so I sent out a request to those who have been some of your favorites, to those who give us so much of their knowledge and wisdom generously. And there are some that said yes. So, again, if you haven't checked out the episodes yet, we had an entire week with my teacher, Franz Steiner. We also had an entire week with Ifatayo White. And at the end of February, we had an entire week with Nicholas Pearson. And so we are starting off March going into another area of focus and a past guest that so many of you enjoyed. Her name was Ebony Banks. And Ebony spoke to us about intuition, and she spoke about clairtangency, which a lot of you hadn't heard of, but is very common for a lot of Reiki practitioners. So we dive deeper into that in the first week of March. And then, of course, there are more teachers lined up that you will get to learn from as this month goes on. So I just want to say thank you again to everyone who said yes to sharing with us so generously. And I want to say thank you to all of you who have actually reached out to let me know how you are enjoying the series. So there are lots of ways that you can really support the podcast and help us spread the word, so to speak, and how to grow the community so that more practitioners can find us and so that more guests will be more willing to come and share with us. So, your sharing on these platforms is invaluable, and I appreciate it. And it's free and it doesn't take much time. So, if you are watching the interviews on YouTube, Reiki Radio's channel on YouTube, be sure to like the videos, leave a comment, share it with your community. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, it really helps if you leave a 5-star review for the podcast wherever you're listening, as well as, again, share with your community if you think any of these conversations are helpful or beneficial to those that you know who are practicing as well. With that, I just want to thank you again for sending me messages, letting me know. There's one email, it just occurred to me that I haven't responded to yet, but I am going to respond. I'm also thankful to know that these interviews and the podcast in of itself has supported a lot of you in having something else to direct your mind to during these very challenging times collectively. So, a lot of people have been overwhelmed and stressed and angry and frustrated and confused by what is going on in the world around us at this time, and understandably so. And it does make a difference to dive deeper into our practices to keep our own selves regulated, to keep our own minds clear, to support ourselves through this gorgeous work so that we can process whatever is coming up for us in healthier ways, and so that we can have the capacity and the clarity to hold loving, compassionate space for others who are also going through the same things. So I've received a few emails. One in particular stands out from a listener who said that the podcast really has been helping them through this time. They are someone who their jobs may be impacted by all that is going on. And believe me, I understand. I have a lot of family who lives, I'm from DC. So I have a lot of family who, again, is also very much tied up into all of these confusing shifts and changes in these times. And again, we all are across the board, but I'm thankful that the podcast is giving some of you some reprieve and reminding you how to stay connected to your self care, your self work, reminding you and providing for you tips and ways to enhance your practice or inspiring you to reconnect with your practice. So, deep bow of gratitude. And don't forget the guests that come on. If you appreciate what it is that they're sharing, follow them as well. Send them a note, let them know. I'm sure they will appreciate that. Spending all of that time with me in an interview was of some value. So reach out to them as well. Speaking of this, because I understand just from my personal practice and, years of doing this work and sharing how powerful it can be for us to have something to help us reconnect to our work, reconnect to our practice. There is a class that I have upcoming in April, but there's an early bird special for registration now. So if you have been thinking about creating more regularity of your practice, reconnecting to your practice, learning some new tips and tricks about how to work with energy for yourself and others, be sure to sign up for the Ultimate Healing Guide. Now, again, it starts in April. It's a 5-week class. We meet every Wednesday. But of course, with time zones and time differences, everyone can't come live, but it's okay. If you are registered for the class, you always have access to the recordings, which I can tell you from other classes I've done, always is invaluable because not only does it serve the people who can't come live, but even when you do come live, I can't tell you how much people go back and listen again to expand whatever it was that they picked up the first time around. So the Ultimate Healing Guide is something that I taught in the past, was very supportive. People really enjoyed it. And so that's why we're doing it again. Funny enough, this was already scheduled at the end of last year. So it just happened to be perfect timing for all of us, I think, with just helping again to support ourselves in focusing and recommitting and creating more diligence in our practice. Now, as I mentioned, there is a early bird special. So if you register for this class by March 15th, you will have a 50%, or not 50%, I'm sorry, $50 discount if you enter the coupon code early bird as one word. So the coupon code early bird as one word gives you $50 off of the tuition for the master class. And the link to register is down below in the description of this Energy of the Month update. So I hope that you will join us. I look forward to working with all of you. Again, even if you can't come live, you can still participate by sharing with me whatever comes up for you when you listen to the recordings. All right, lovebirds. So let's get into the energy of March. I have to say, there's so much significance in this energy. One, because we are in a month that moves us into a new season. And whenever we deal with the energy of an equinox or a solstice, that is very powerful. It is a changing of season, not just for Mother Earth, not just in nature, but for us. Remember that everything is a mirroring of what it is our own processes and cycles of growth and evolution are. So this time, it's very palpable, this shift, this change of energy that we will see around us and what it is that it mirrors for what is changing and shifting within. So we'll get to the equinox and what is going on with that energy, what we can recognize in that energy. But the other thing that stands out so significantly about this month is this essence of, I want to say, like the spiritual warrior, because we are starting the month out in the sign of Pisces, which is very much connected to our spiritual exploration, that experimentation of our spiritual nature while here on the earth plane, while here in form. It is that essence that reminds us of our connection to all there is. It is that essence that reminds us that we are separate from no thing. And in this beautiful intelligence of Pisces is where we surrender. We surrender to the expansion of our minds and our consciousness and really tap into those dimensions of our intuition, our creativity, our dreams, our ability to feel into our connection. Now, of course, there is like a challenging side to all of the signs as much as there are gifts. So, this energy also presents us with the opportunity to recognize where we may have lost all sense of boundary, where then it becomes this potential for moving into states of delusion, confusion, and also not honoring our sovereignty. Now, once we do allow ourselves to dance in this consciousness of Pisces that was classically ruled by Jupiter, we can see how we have such a beautiful opportunity to dive deep into the sea of our spiritual nature, into the unseen aspects of our design, of our nature, and expand into the wider scope of consciousness rather than just this narrow, mundane view of what we're experiencing and of the world. But instead, we can tap into this higher octave and tapestry of what it means to be very much alive and again connected to everyone and everything, and where we can empower ourselves in this recognition, where we can allow ourselves to tune into the history, the ancestry, the imprints of our DNA, going so much deeper into the aliveness, the awareness of who and what we are. But as I said, there's still this balance of where do we still maintain that sense of sovereignty and recognizing our ability, our choice, the advantage of being very present, managing our own mind, our emotion, while still having an awareness of being connected to all there is, being a part of the bigger picture, being part of the collective of the all, but having this beautiful gift of being able to manage a portion of the all, contributing back, sharing our own gifts, talents, and understanding. Now, the beauty here too, I always think of Pisces intelligence on that axis of service, on that line of opposition and support between Pisces and Virgo. They both teach us about being of service, but in very different ways. So that Pisces energy is going to ask us to recognize where we need to lose some of the boundary, some of the ego, some of the self identification in order to serve through our energy, through our essence, through the parts of us that are not individualized. So we can serve through that ability to feel through our connections. We can serve through that intelligence of our empathy. But the only way to do this effectively is also to tune into that other side of the fence, so to speak, where Virgo says, be practical in how you serve, be useful in how you serve. Don't fully lose yourself, but have some clarity, some groundedness around this ability to tune in, to tap into what is needed, what would be most useful. So this month, we really have this opportunity to have more of an awareness to click into how we are serving beyond just what we do in action, beyond what we just speak in word. How are you serving just through how you be, how you exist? Through the internal processes of your being, we are all generating and expressing energy, intelligence, pouring back through this connectivity into the collective, into the sea of all. So, what is it that you are managing within your healing? What are you attuning to? What are you regulating? What are you allowing yourself to surrender to understand in deeper ways, so that just your expression alone becomes one of love, compassion, more empathetic, more kind? And then that trickles into the nature of our creative expression, and how, Pisces will get us to imagine and envision in such beautiful, intelligent ways. And in all of this unseen, this depth of consciousness is the seed, is the foundation, is the soil of what everything else in our expression comes out of. So then it does start to fuel how we understand ourselves and being part of all there is. It does start to fuel and give motivation and initiate how we will contribute through our actions, our words, our thoughts, our deeds. And once we allow ourselves to kind of, we'll say, bathe and cleanse in these beautiful waters, being adaptable as Pisces is, recognizing again how to fine tune ourselves, not just analytically, but intuitively, allowing us to be guided by our higher consciousness, this deeper level of intelligence. Because these waters that we are cultivating within this season of Pisces will be the waters that feed and nourish Earth to allow growth as we move into Aries season, which is when we enter into the spring equinox, which is the season of renewal, growth, spring. So then we break ground. And Aries is going to say, break that ground of your identity. Break ground around your goals, your ambitions. Now that you have clarified and come into a deeper kind of relationship with yourself, potentially in Pisces season. Now that you have allowed yourself to rediscover, redefine, understand in more expansive ways your connection, your contribution, your service. How then can you add some fire into how you're going to initiate now the way forward with what has been stirring and moving inside of you? So this month, again, I come back to, it reminds me of the spiritual warrior, the spirituality aspect of Pisces, and that warrior aspect of Aries, governed by Mars. So while this may sound incredible, which it is, and it can be, depending on how we interact with it all, depending on how we perceive these opportunities, it can be groundbreaking for us. We can have a lot of breakthroughs in this intelligence. However, it's going to take work. It's going to take our presence and our interaction and our choice to not lose ourselves in that potential of slipping into illusion and confusion. It's going to take work to stay grounded while expanding into new expression. It's going to take work to choose to transform and release ourselves from what no longer serves us. It's going to take work to be honest with ourselves about what we see, what we recognize, what comes into our awareness, and dealing with it all with love, compassion, and understanding. That's all work. Because for a lot of us, the default is to criticize, to shame ourselves, to be embarrassed, to be upset about shoulda, woulda, coulda. We have those patterns, we have those traits, we have those behaviors, but they're not permanent. Everything is malleable. Your mind is changeable. Your emotional state is changeable. Your understanding is changeable. And that's why we do this work, to evolve on every level of our consciousness and understanding. But again, it takes our participation. So Aries gives us that boldness, that inspiration to say, heck yeah, I'm taking the ram by the horn, so to speak, to really be more bold in how I show up, in the truth of who I am, in the truth of my desire, in the truth of my inspiration. But even that act of courage, that audacity, it takes work. Because again, a lot of us are working through old stories of like fear, doubt, worry, shame, not feeling good enough. There are so many stories, but it again is okay if we decide up front that all that we become aware of is an opportunity for us to transmute, to purify, to alchemize. It comes forward for us to understand ourselves in deeper ways. Then we can interact with all of it differently. We can interact with our realization differently. And we can see how even the challenges are a gift because we have this potential to stop working from these old energies and patterns and behaviors that no longer serve us. And we can even have this appreciation for what they taught us. We can have an appreciation for, wow, those versions of myself went through X, Y, and Z because of whatever I was hurting or going through or what I misunderstood. You can have compassion for what you are growing out of and excitement for what you are evolving into. Now, again, this month, it's going to require us to work at it. As you know, all cycles of life require our work and our diligence, but there are energies this month that are really going to bring a lot into our awareness, serve a lot for us to, kind of examine and digest at the table. Now, one of the interesting things about this energy is there are a lot of things going on astrologically this month, but what really stood out is what is going on between two planets in particular, between Venus and Mercury. There's a lot of movement here with Venus and Mercury, and they're doing a similar dance. So, what is going to happen is Venus and Mercury are both going to go into retrograde this month. And that turns those energies inward. So we're talking Venus, the energy of our relationship tendencies, the energies that we have individually within relationship, within connection, within and around our desires. That is going to do a backspin of sorts. Again, bring us into introspection, maybe bring things back around for us to re-examine. But then Mercury, how we process thought, how we get things done, that is also going to go into retrograde again, giving us an opportunity to really re-examine, bringing things back around to say, where do we need to make corrections? And both of these planets are going to retrograde in the signs of Aries before retrograding in the sign of Pisces. So, where the sun is going from Pisces to Aries, these retrogrades are going from Aries to Pisces. So, again, we start off this month with kind of this fiery intelligence of what is the charge the fire around that energy of our relationships, our connections, our communication. So, with that, we do want to be very mindful of how we are interacting within these energies, especially as the month starts up. Is this the type of fire from Aries that ignites you to be more, I want to say, receptive, interactive with your energies of relationship, with what it is that you desire, with your communication? Or is this the kind of fire that is combustible for you? Now, the reason I'm saying this way is because these energies work with each of us differently, but we can all have an awareness of, if we have these experiences, to consciously decide how to engage. Now, if it is kind of, it feels eruptive, if things come back around that are pushing your buttons, that are aggravating you, if there are aspects or shadow around relationship, connections, partnerships, if there is shadow that comes back around how you have been in communication, whether with yourself or other people, recognize what these triggers are trying to present to you in terms of messaging. Remember, our emotions are messengers. So, what pushes our buttons or what makes us uncomfortable is an alert. There is something here to be acknowledged. There is something here that needs some love, some compassion, some transformation that will support us in understanding. But to understand it, we have to be willing to sit with it, feel through it, look at it. And again, from that lens of, I'm going to learn from this, have compassion with myself, step out of the judgment and the criticism. What about these opportunities that come back around? What is it about this reflection that we are ushered into that could actually be a benefit for you? I mean, think about it. Sometimes we handle things in a particular way. Sometimes we get stuck in patterns, and it really isn't serving us. That choice, the result of the choice, the things we set in motion, oftentimes we sit in that essence and think like, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel right. This is off. This is making me feel some kind of way. This feels awful. It doesn't feel good. But we may feel entrapped, or we may just be so stuck in the story of it's off. Or we may be in the delusion of, or the illusion of, sweep it under the rug and pretend it's not there. But then these kinds of energies come in and say, oh, no, no, no. You're going to look at this. You're going to look at this because you have an opportunity to correct. You have an opportunity to take responsibility, accountability, look at your interaction with whatever these energies are, and consider again, how are you either adding fuel to the fire, or how are you surrendering to, there's potential to make adjustment, to adapt, to restructure, to do something differently. So this month is going to present a lot of these opportunities of, where do we need to modify? And again, it is preparation, because you are being initiated into a new cycle at the spring equinox, as we will move into Aries season, to be more bold in how it is you move forward and how you are seeing yourself. So let's talk about when all of this is going on. Sorry, I got really excited. All right. So the card that supports us this month in the Energetic Alchemist Oracle deck, if you don't have the deck yet, be sure to get it. It is a beautiful deck. I still am so thankful that this project came to fruition. But this is the gorgeous box. But this is the Breathing Goddess. It is the number 3 card. The number 3, which March is the 3rd month, relates to creation. 1 is the intelligence of the divine masculine energy. 2 is the intelligence of the divine feminine, When these energies unify and come together, we get the intelligence of three, which is child. It is that essence of the unification of the divine feminine and masculine becoming other, becoming one, becoming this creative intelligence known as child. So it really represents us. We are the product, the result of the unification of feminine and masculine energy, the intelligence, that aspect of ourselves that is nurturing, that is receptive, that is intuitive, harmonized with the aspect of ourselves that is active, that is analytical, that is our drive, our will, our determination. And when you marry these kinds of energies, that's what makes us creative beings. That's what gives us the ability to create. So, a lot of this work within the realm of spirituality is really all pointing to not just awakening to the consciousness of being one with all there is, but a big aspect and step in that is unifying that consciousness of the divine feminine and masculine purified within your being to awaken. And in that, you also start to become more consciously in tune with how you are a creative being. So, the breathing goddess, if you have the deck, you want to meditate on this card this month and see what it teaches you. What gifts does she bring? One of these gifts is her awareness of just that. She is aware of the creative essence that she is. So, she's not chasing life. She's not worried about what she can have or not. She understands that she is the embodiment of all and that she is already abundant because she's abundant in her mind, in her consciousness. And so she magnetizes all that she wants in creation, but she also recognizes her relationship to every aspect of creation. So she also represents fertility, the ability to birth things into being because of the nature of her awareness and intelligence. You see these 12 stars around her waist symbolize her connection to the cosmic, the 12 signs of the zodiac, we could even say. We see her connection to Venus. We see the pomegranates. There's so much symbolism here. And again, if you have the deck, you can read about this card or meditate on it. But this is the intelligence that will also support us and what we're starting to recognize about ourselves and our function this month. So, again, let's get to some of the dates of what we can pay attention to throughout March. This is the part where you get out your calendars and take note. And the reason I say put it like in your planner, write it down in your notes, is because just say you're going through the month and then you hit a point in the month where you're like, what is going on energetically? You can check to see, is it any of these energies that are shifting? The other thing is there are so many astrological transits and alignments that are going on that I am not going to get into because it's just too many. So we have certain ones that we highlight, typically the moon phases and the retrogrades. So starting March 1st, right out of the gate, March 1st, we have Venus, as we talked about, going in retrograde in the sign of Aries. So again, think about what gets you fired up in your connections. Is there any heat? Check the temperature. Is that fire of passion? Is that fire combustible? Is it aggravation? What's going on in this intelligence of how you are seeing, how you are reflecting on your relationship to relationship, your connections with others? This is a great time to examine that. And, again, in a retrograde, some of our habits and unresolved energies may be revisited. Some things may come back around quite literally into our life or just in our conscious awareness and recognition. But don't sweep it under the rug. You really want to see and feel into how you are playing a role and what is being presented to you, the choices that you're making around what is being presented to you. And always remembering us as individuals, we're not the only ones feeling these energies. Even the people you're interacting with, they are feeling this too. So, how do we interact with all of this with mindfulness? How does Venus going into that essence of the intelligence around relationship, partnership, connections, our desires, how are we being brought into awareness around our consciousness and choice? And where may we need to make some changes, some adaptations around this? But having even that boldness of Aries to say, me, my part in this, how it's affecting me. Now, that retrograde in Aries again starts on March 1st, and it will be retrograde in Aries until the 27th of March. And then that retrograde will go into Pisces. And then when Venus retrogrades in Pisces, we also want to check in on the nature of our connections. Are there stories? Are there shadows? Are there illusions that we have been ignoring or again sweeping under the rug where we over romanticizing things? Like, what is it we need to understand about the way that we are seeing our connections, our boundaries within connections, or our loss of boundary? Where is it that we need to find our center within that Venusian energy? We'll have an opportunity to work through all of this throughout this month. And even with that Aries influence, considering like what we're fighting for, how we're fighting, what really matters to you in these connections. Okay. Now, on March 12th, we have the sun going into a conjunction with Saturn, and this happens once a year. Now, remember, the sun illuminates energies, it illuminates what it touches, so to speak. And Saturn really highlights our structure, our lessons. This is like that intelligence of our responsibility and what we need to be accountable for, what it is we can learn, where we can grow. But on the backside of that, there's usually reward for our diligence, for our effort. But the key is we have to also be accountable and responsible to whatever our personal lessons may be. So the sun coming into relationship and highlighting this intelligence will bring more into our awareness, a need to potentially cross your T's, dot your I's. What is it that needs to where you need to be, again, maybe more responsible, more diligent, more accountable? What is it that you need to face in terms of lessons? Where is it that you may need to face in terms of maybe certain structures or things in your life aren't working well and need some type of change, need some new structure, restructure, or just starting to structure for the first time? What is being illuminated for you that you have a hand in making, I want to say, corrections around or learning a lesson through? If you don't ignore it, if you don't deny it, again, how may that create significant shift and change for you? Sometimes these energies are uncomfortable, but remember, again, it's for our benefit. There are lots of things we go through in life that aren't necessarily comfortable, but how much can you look at hindsight and think like, wow, I really overcame XYZ, or going through that experience really changed me in a positive way, helped me grow, helped me expand my mind, helped me to understand myself, helped me to reclaim myself. Discomfort doesn't necessarily mean bad, right? It just means we have to have that diligence and choice and working through it. Got to go through it to get through it, right? So after this, on March 14th, we are in eclipse season now. So on March 14th, we have the full moon total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. So Virgo, again, remember I said that there's this axis of service between Pisces and Virgo. When the moon is full, the signs are in opposing the sun is in opposing signs. So the sun will still be in Pisces and the moon, when it's full, will be in Virgo. So again, now there's even this amplification of how do we serve? How do you serve? But also, the full moon to me, it illuminates, what it is we are holding. It really illuminates our internal processes, our internalized feelings, our internalized needs, wants, desires. The spotlight comes in, where a lot of times our spotlight is externalized and whatever's going on out there. The full moon brings it in to what it is that we are holding on to. But this particular full moon, because it's in Virgo, I want to say there is a heavy opportunity here to make revisions. Heavy on the revisions. What is it that we recognize in this intelligence where change and adaptation can be made, again, to serve our way of moving forward? Whatever has been hidden, whatever was in the shadow, whatever's been being ignored, again, this is the kind of energy that brings it to the surface. And again, but it's an opportunity to make things better. The one thing with it being in Virgo, I would say, whatever adjustments are being made, whatever comes into your awareness, if you have ideas of how to restructure or refinagle things, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it practical. Okay. And stick to the plans that you create. If you decide, like, in this energy, I'm aware that I can do XYZ to make things better, stick to it, follow through. But again, keep it simple, keep it practical. Now, on the next day, on March 15th, we have Mercury doing its retrograde, like we spoke of. Mercury is going to retrograde in Aries first, and then on the 29th, it will move in retrograde into Pisces. So, in this energy, we may be tempted to add fuel to the fire in our communication. Again, it's coming in. Where are you recognizing that Aries, that fiery boldness in your communication? Is there this potential that you may feel like abrupt with your words in your exchange, in your determination to do things your way? Again, sit with this energy. Just because it comes up doesn't mean it has to come out right away. When things come up, sit and observe and then allow it to express. Be in your mindfulness. Why do certain things feel so fiery? What is this attached to? What is it connected to? And on the other hand, are there some things that you need to communicate with more boldness? Do you need to assert yourself more? Remember, this is different for each of us, but having that awareness and how it is personal to you is how we work in our wisdom. We have to be in our awareness and consciously choosing, recognizing the potential of the effect that we will initiate and put into motion. So, there may be a little heat. You may notice some people a little fiery, having some tempers, but be mindful. And then when this retrograde moves into the essence of Pisces, you want to let the mind, Mercury, allow our mind again to kind of ease and flow and soften into those waters again, allowing yourself to surrender to how can I potentially understand my communications in a deeper way? Is my communication only coming from my logic, my analytical, or am I allowing that merger with higher mind, higher consciousness, my intuitive self? What is the bigger picture scope of how you are processing thought, of how you are recognizing what you become aware of? You are the one interacting with all of this and therefore have a choice in how you perceive and understand. But you have to sit with it. You have to acknowledge it. You have to feel into it. So this Mercury retrograde will end on April 7th, and the Venus retrograde will end on April 12th. Now, the interesting thing about the Venus retrograde that I just want to mention really quickly, a lot of people consider this like a death and rebirth of Venus. So I want you to think of what that means for you, energetically speaking, in terms of, again, essence and symbolism. Because when Venus goes into retrograde, right now, Venus is positioned as visible as the evening star. And when it goes into its retrograde, it's going to be not visible in our sky for about a week. And then at the end of the retrograde, in this period, what is happening is it's repositioning itself as the morning star. So think of that essence of your relationship intelligence and what it may be like more in um, the shadow, the evening, right? It would be more introspective. It would maybe be slower moving. Whereas in the morning star, in a lighter intelligence, it may be more spontaneous, more social, right? So be very mindful again. How is this month reshaping our awareness around relationship and our communication? Very interesting energies. Now, as I mentioned before, on the 20th of March is when we have that spring equinox. So, on this day, that's when the sun is going to move out of Pisces and into Aries. So, we're going from these watery, intuitive, dreamlike quality into this fiery essence, this boldness, where we are going to be ushered into or initiated into a new cycle of how we see ourselves, a new cycle and potential of being more bold in the choices in our direction and how we lead ourselves. But again, use that intelligence of Pisces to get very clear on your bigger picture, on the depth of your understanding, on the depth of the working of your spiritual nature, because then that will support how you are re-identifying, reclaiming the nature of your audacity and boldness. So the sun will move into Aries, and we'll actually talk more about the Aries intelligence next month when Aries is the king of the month in April. But side note, happy birthday to all the beautiful Pisces and happy birthday to all of the beautiful Aries. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. But the spring equinox is really, it's a time of renewal, it's rebirth. We're coming out of winter. And it's like, again, we were in this deep introspective. A lot has been stirring and coming up for us. And now we're about to break ground in our consciousness, in our action through our choice. It's like this new breath of life. Look at Earth, where spring is where things start to bud. They're not in full bloom, but things start to bud. Life is starting. A renewal of life is presenting itself. How does that reflect back the potential of this renewal, this rebirthing for you? So, it's really a great time to consider even the stance, your energetic alignment, impression, what it is that you are leaving behind no longer serves you, what you're transmuting, but how it is that you are going to be inspired by the new round of ambitions and goals, the new energy that you're going to infuse into the life that you are cultivating into this next cycle. So be very inspired, but harness the gifts of patience, because Aries can, again, just be kind of bold and not really have the most patience. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of our patience. Now, another thing that is going to happen with Venus and Mercury, again, I told you these two planets, that's why relationship energy, communication is so highlighted this month. In between this retrograde that both of these planets are in, both of them are going to meet up with the sun. So on March 22nd, Venus is going to go into a conjunction or a cazimi with the sun, where there's this amplification of this Venusian energy. So think of it as in the midst of the retrograde, there's going to be this spotlight on this opportunity to really see and clarify the intelligence around your relationship energies and your desires before this energy moves direct on the 12th of April and becomes the morning star. Now, Mercury is going to have its meetup with the sun, conjunct with the sun on the 24th of March. And so, again, this opportunity in the middle of the retrograde to really shine a light on and gain some clarity, this illumination around the clearing up of anything that has been confused, really clarifying your thought process, your understanding, and even the way that you're moving and getting things done before Mercury goes direct on April 7th. So there is a lot. There's a lot of opportunity this month, and it all leads up to the new moon. It's not just a new moon, it's the new supermoon on the 29th of March. We have a new supermoon partial solar eclipse in Aries. And think about this, an eclipse and it's Aries, and we're just moved into a new season. This is like a powerhouse of a new moon, and it's a super new moon. This is very bold. This is very powerful. This is very initiating. So think about that. If this is the time where we are planting new seeds of our intention, and that boldness of Aries is saying, who are you? How do you identify? Are you going to have the audacity to go after what you want? But this eclipse is also going to really bring things to the table. It's going to supercharge this energy. You want to be mindful of what it is you are intending in mind. You want to be mindful of the words that you are speaking about your life, about your direction, about yourself. So, be clear on the intentions that you set here. You're being initiated into a new cycle of opportunity, a new cycle of your life experience, a new cycle of your way of being and knowing who and what you are. Again, it comes back to spiritual warrior for this month, right? It feels like there's a great opportunity here for refinement. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. On this same day is when that Mercury will move from Aries retrograde into Pisces retrograde. So don't forget that you're moving into this inner reflection in observation of your emotional body at the same time as this new moon hits. So just be observant and try to stay neutral. Don't be possessed by your emotional body. Where do you find that balance, that harmony, that neutral state to observe and be wise in your decisions? Now, the last thing for this month that we're going to talk about anyway is on the 30th of March. And this is when Neptune, the planet Neptune, moves into Aries. It has been in Pisces since 2011. So now with this shift with Aries into Neptune, again, the term that came to mind to me again was spiritual warrior. And this is about personal transformation, but in a very intensified way. There's going to be bold shifts in our identity. Again, how we see ourselves, huge shifts around our potential of transformation, our spiritual work, the hero's journey, the heroine's journey. There's going to be big, big shifts that we see in the collective within society underneath this energy. So stay tuned and be consciously engaged with how you work with all of this. So just again, don't forget, if you are feeling like there is a need, an opportunity to reconnect with your personal practice or to go deeper into your understanding, or you're ready for some new techniques, be sure to join me for the Ultimate Healing Guide class that starts in April. It is 5 weeks. We meet every Wednesday in April. If you can't attend live, you have access to the recordings. It's no problem. However, there's an early bird special, so register now so you can get $50 off of the cost of the class. You just enter the coupon code early bird as one word at checkout. So when you click on the link to register for the class, you'll see a little coupon box. Enter early bird, one word, and you get $50 off. And then I will see you in class. I cannot wait to work with you. I can't tell you how transformative all of these classes are really, and they're so much fun. We have great interaction. Yeah, I mean, it's you'll only know if you come. So show up. The Ultimate Healing Guide in April, but sign up now for the discount. And don't forget that the podcast, these series, these specials are still going on. Go back, catch up, send messages to the people who have joined us just so that they know that it really was beneficial for us as a community, for them to take that time to sit with me for 3 hours. I can't tell you how much I appreciate their generosity, but also you can support it all by sharing, by giving us 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you listen to, by following the YouTube channel of Reiki Radio. All of that supports and helps our community grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. So cheers to change and transformation collectively and personally through this month of March. I will see you all very soon, and remember to always journey in love.